All right, here we go. A little routine to help you unlock your hips. First and foremost, want to address the fact that if your hips always feel tight, or if one particular area in your hips always feels tight, we might have an alignment issue, not necessarily a shortened, lengthened muscle, something that might require a little more intent and focus in one particular area. Right, now that we got that, we're gonna start with our breathing, right? We're getting set, grounded, understanding, getting our nervous system in a nice relaxed environment, working through the hips here. No rush, there's no sets, reps with any of this. It's all based on how you feel. So didn't want to put any numbers on it. It's all just going off of your feel. Now, as we're getting to it, what I like to look for is about a 7 or an 8 on these out of the burn level, right? Or we're trying to tap in and kind of stimulate muscle activation and that engagement piece. So I'm gonna make sure that I'm pushing myself to a limit where we're gonna adapt and create some change here, okay? So with some of these motions, basically everything, we just want to make sure that we're focused on our alignment, making sure, you can see me kind of grabbing that bottom rib here, making sure that we're staying stacked up, that the hips are sitting on top of each other, right? So you see it right there, making sure my top hip isn't floating forward or back too much, that we're really just trying to stay stacked up. Again, the whole purpose of this routine is to bring awareness to the space, help improve our control through it. Okay, so I don't need to overcoach or break down every single little motion. Just take home fact that we're staying stacked up, that bottom rib we're trying to keep high, hips staying on top of each other as we're getting through all of the motion that we would expect out of our hip. So with this first series, you can see on the elbow, taking our time, breathing, popping up. Right, now it's more challenge for the bottom hip, for the core, right, getting comfortable there. Again, everything here is tempo work, right? So take as much time. If you need to go back through that same series, by all means do it, right? And now we're progressing into just more and more advanced motions. If you're getting any significant discomfort, pain with any of these motions, again, we're probably dealing with some form of a longer term alignment issue, which is going to be addressed in other videos. This is assuming that we're happy, healthy, like that we're just looking for a little improvement through the hips, cleaning up some minor corrections, right? So now we're progressing level 2, right? So you can see straight arm. Now it's asking more out of the ribs, more out of the core, more out of the hips. Right, so taking our time, breathing, tapping into the nervous system, getting everything comfortable, set before we start going. Doing your best to understand and just put that mind-body connection to it. A lot of people like to rush through. You can see here, you can watch that kneecap kind of rotating around, finding different spaces. Then we can work through. Okay, so in regards to like where your body wants to naturally go, challenge a little bit, right? So you can see I'm kind of pinning the top of my right hip, so I'm asking that right knee, right hip to open up a little bit more than maybe it was comfortable doing, and just challenging the space through there. Not that we're necessarily looking to create a ton of quote unquote mobility, but what we want is stability through the motion that we have. Okay, so with the hips, it's not about how much motion do we have, it's about how much motion do we have control through. Okay, so you can see progressing through the same cycle, burning. This should be burning, right? Again, we're looking for that 7 or 8, and then we're popping up. Again, just progressing off of the same thing we just did before. Bottom rib stays up. Breathing, hold time, right? The diaphragm is so connected with the hips that if you're holding your breath or creating strain that way, like not breathing properly through this entire routine, you're missing a lot of it, right? So a lot of us have shallow breath. which creates like a compressed rib cage, which doesn't interact with the diaphragm and the hips well. So we want to make sure that all three of these are working well together: ribs, diaphragm, and the hips. Make sure breathing pattern is smooth and that we're connecting everything. Okay, so that's all of our groundwork right there. I just did one side for the sake of the video. Obviously, we need to work both sides. And that might take you 20 minutes, 30 minutes, right? You can go through 2 times, do extra reps, whatever the case may be, whatever it is for you to feel. Okay, now we're getting our base. Now we're building our foot to hip connection. So dropping the hips up and down a little bit. Try to find neutral. We don't necessarily need to live at neutral all the time, right? When we run, when we step, there is a series of almost that figure 8 concept going through the hips where we're gonna raise up and down a little bit. But when we do stick in the ground, we need stability out of our hips. So we wanna make sure that when we stick with the hips, the rest of the body can stay stacked. So ankle working strong, connected to the hip, core, everything up the entire chain needs to stabilize, and a lot of it's going to stem from the hip. So we want to make sure we're identifying, locking in, focused on the hip and foot connection here. Almost trying to grab the ground with the foot, making sure the hip is staying with us and engaged throughout the entire motion. Challenge the in-betweens, right? A lot of times we just get to that position and then the full RDL position right here. A lot of times we don't spend enough time in between. So taking your time moving through, always reassessing, check where the hips are, move through, steady, smooth, under control. Okay, make this motion your own, spend as much time as you need to in certain spots. And you can see we're gonna get into some rotations right here. You can always go back and do those cycles with a different rotation too. Okay, so it's just to give you that feel, that understanding. Lateral line running from the ankle up to the hip. Now we're tapping into that here with the squats, right? So find a rotation that's comfortable, then find a rotation that's maybe a little bit of a challenge. It's such a feel thing, so there's no right, wrong, one spot that you gotta work. It's just trying to put the whole system together. Okay, and now we're stepping through. So this is obviously very important in terms of building out, and you can see the similarities to our gait cycle, right? So this is walking, hips staying stable as we're working through. It's just such a feel thing that we're trying to keep that hip as we step through the entire motion. And then if you've had any issues, pain, anything in the interim or building up to this, cut the hops. But if you're ready for it and you can feel that hip the whole time, work the hops, build to our dynamic.